Just imagine a strange virus spreading throughout the world, where the effect is such that if anyone steps outside their home or office, they will die. But what kind of heart-stopping events unfold with us humans in this large scenario will have to be seen soon. At the beginning of the story, we are shown a man named Mark who collects resources for his food. Interestingly, Mark had not stepped outside his office for the past 3 months. It was discovered that everyone present in Mark's office had also not been outside for several months. In reality, a strange virus had spread throughout the world, which caused death if anyone stepped outside their homes or offices. In Mark's office, he has an assistant named Bob. To get out of this place, Mark used to dig tunnels with the rest of the people. Mark had been trying for several days to find a GPS device to locate his girlfriend Hella. A few months ago, everything used to work out fine, and Mark used to comfortably manage his company. But Bob was a very strict person. If any employee did not complete their work on time, Bob would directly fire them from the company. In this way, Bob had given Mark a project, demanding it be completed as soon as possible, or he would also fire Mark like the others. Mark was under a lot of tension about this project and was working day and night. During this time, Mark's girlfriend Hella came over for dinner. Mark directly went to Hella's house from his office. Mark discovered that Hella wanted to have a child because, like everyone else, she wanted to expand her family. However, Mark told Hella that he was not ready for this yet. Hella was very upset with this response. The next day, when Mark went to his office, he received shocking news. A boy had been confined inside his house for the past 6 months, and he was not ready to step outside the house. However, when the police tried to force him out, the boy took his own life in the alleyway. This news was hard for people to believe, so everyone ignored it. But Mark noticed that one of his friends was behaving very strangely. He hadn't bathed in the past 10 days. After finishing his work, when Mark went home, he noticed a terrible stench coming from his neighbor's house. When Mark opened the door and went inside, he found food scattered everywhere. Suddenly, the neighbor attacked Mark. Later, Mark learned that the man had been confined to his house for the past month. The neighbor mentioned that he was very scared to leave the house. After these events, Mark realized that the milk he used to get at the office had been delivered from there for the past month, and now security guards were forcefully trying to get the man out. The man was pleading not to be taken out of the office, but as soon as he was told to leave, he suddenly started feeling ill. Mark observed all this from a distance and asked the security guards to return his friend to the office. However, by the time they managed to do so, it was too late, and his friend's life was lost. After witnessing all these recent events, Mark started to feel suspicious. Now, while sitting with his girlfriend Hella and watching the news, he learned that many people around the world did not want to step outside their homes. Those who tried to leave were dying in mysterious ways. The president assured that they would find a cure for this virus soon. Hearing this, Mark set out for his office, but he was a bit scared to see that there were no people on the streets and no passengers on the trains. Everything looked as if everyone had died, and Mark was the only one left alive. Now, one day, when Mark was with his girlfriend Hella, he felt something was wrong. Then, he took Hella's friend, who was telling Mark that Hella didn't want to talk to him. In fact, Mark was not ready to marry Hella and start a family, but Hella wanted a family, which is why she no longer wanted to talk to Mark. Mark was completely confused by this, but the next time he tried to contact Hella, the network suddenly went down. As Mark tried to reach Hella from outside the office, he couldn't handle the outside light. After going outside, Mark started to feel suffocated, so he quickly returned inside the office. This meant that, along with everyone else, Mark had also become a victim of the virus. Now, our story moves to the present, where Mark is requesting a GPS device from Bob. Mark tells Bob that he needs to find his girlfriend Hella at any cost. Hearing this, Bob agrees and sets out with Mark, taking the GPS device to find Hella. They advanced carefully through the tunnel since people hadn't stepped outside for months, and they didn't know what the outside situation would be. Mark and Bob were on their way to find Mark's girlfriend. On the way, they saw many people hiding in bunkers. Using the GPS, Mark found a route to his apartment. After some fear, they both reached Mark's apartment, but there was no visible way out of the tunnel. So, Bob came up with a clever solution. He poured gasoline on the top of the tunnel and then set it on fire, causing a big explosion. The blast created a hole through which Mark and Bob escaped. Mark had reached his apartment, where many people were already present. These people had been trying to get outside their homes for months. Mark, along with Bob, started heading towards his apartment. The situation in the building was really bad. When Mark reached near his room, he saw that the door was broken, and there was a frightening scene inside. Mark, in a fit of rage, rushed into the room, where the person inside was trying very hard to push him out. Mark forcibly entered the room, where the man was with his wife and daughter. Mark asked where his girlfriend Hella was. The man explained that when he and his family came to this room, there was no one else there. Mark was extremely scared, wondering where his girlfriend could be. Bob and Mark started searching the room. Bob had collected various plants from there, while Mark found a report stating that Hella was pregnant, something she had never told Mark. This news made Mark even more anxious about Hella. So, Mark gathered the necessary supplies and returned to the tunnel, determined to find Hella's friend. Bob then said that he would not continue with Mark because his task was to get Mark to his apartment. Mark, however, was determined to find his girlfriend, leading to a heated argument between the two. After some tension, everything returned to normal, and Bob revealed that he needed the GPS device to find his father. Bob's father was in the hospital due to a severe illness and had been there for several months. Bob wanted to get his father out of the hospital first before allowing Mark to use the GPS device. Therefore, Mark agreed to help Bob find his father. They used the tunnel to reach a public library. After several hours, Mark and Bob decided to take a break. They realized they were being followed, so Mark and Bob picked up iron rods for protection. A little further, they discovered a large bear, which had probably escaped from a zoo. The bear immediately attacked Bob, trying to bite him with its teeth. In a desperate move, Bob drove the iron rod into the bear's body, narrowly escaping with his life. Afterward, they decided to eat the bear's meat, which was surprisingly delicious. It had been months since they had eaten anything so satisfying. Bob asks Mark why he didn't just take the GPS device and leave him behind. Mark responds that he can't just abandon Bob, as he would have to answer to a higher authority. After eating, both of them continue on their journey. On the way, they encounter some people, and Bob learns that a major fire has occurred at the nearby hospital where his father was admitted. They rush to the top of the building, but Bob is devastated to find that the hospital has been completely destroyed. Seeing no hope for his father's survival, Bob is overwhelmed with grief and considers jumping from the building to end his life. However, Mark stops him from doing so, urging him to leave the building. Bob realizes that he can no longer help Mark and decides to give him the plants he had collected, which might be useful in the future. Mark continues his journey alone. After several more hours, Mark reaches a mall where he hopes to find Hella. He notices that someone might be following him but ignores it and heads into the supermarket. Inside, many people have blocked the aisles, making it difficult to get through. Mark calmly informs them that he is only searching for his girlfriend, Hella. Hearing this, they allow him to enter. However, soon after, several unknown people enter the supermarket and start taking items without permission, causing chaos everywhere. Despite the commotion, Mark manages to find Hella's best friend, who informs him that Hella is not there and has been at a nearby doctor's clinic for several months. This information gives Mark a glimmer of hope. Suddenly, the ceiling of the supermarket starts to collapse. Mark continues to help his friend, trying to navigate through the chaos. But just moments later, a large wall collapses on Hella's friend, trapping her and preventing her from escaping. At the same time, an unknown person attacks Mark. Despite Mark's efforts to save himself, he is in trouble until Bob arrives just in time to help him fend off the attacker. Instead of killing the attacker, Bob drives him away. Bob tells Mark that he will stick with him, but he is severely injured from the fight. Mark helps Bob to a clinic where Hella is supposed to be. Mark settles Bob in a theater to rest and proceeds to the building directly across the street where the doctor's clinic is located. After searching tirelessly, Mark is relieved to find Hella in the clinic. He then returns to check on Bob, who is losing a lot of blood and is on the brink of death. Determined to reach his girlfriend, Mark gathers his courage and leaves the building, despite feeling faint from the ongoing effects of the virus. He fears he might never reach Hela, but just as he loses consciousness, he finds himself in Hela's arms. Remarkably, he has managed to cover the distance quickly, and he is overjoyed to be reunited with Hela after so many months. They both start living together in the building, and Mark performs a successful operation on Hela, resulting in the birth of a beautiful son. Mark plants the seeds of the various plants he had collected, which grow rapidly over a few months. Mark, Hela, and their son enjoy a happy life together. One day, however, their son accidentally wanders outside, but surprisingly, he is unaffected by the virus. This reveals that their son is completely immune to the virus. As time passes, their son grows up and is able to move freely in the environment. And now, many more children, like Mark's own daughter, who are completely immune to the virus, start appearing. This new generation remains unaffected by the dangerous virus. And with this, our story comes to an end.